Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Nurtured by Nature podcast. Today, I'm delighted to be joined in conversation by the lovely Helen Peterson. Helen is the owner of Happy Seal Yoga, based on the beautiful North Yorkshire coast in the UK. During this inspiring episode, we explored how Helen's journey to improve her surfing led her to yoga and rippled out to create a community that now works together to care for and also enjoy the beautiful North Yorkshire coastline she calls home. We discussed how yoga can provide both a physical and perhaps more importantly, a mentally supportive route to recovery after serious injury, and that even if you can't touch your own toes, you shouldn't be put off trying yoga. Lastly, we pondered how our own perspectives in life can lead us to becoming blinkered and taking for granted the beauty that's just around the corner on our own doorsteps. Well, hello Helen, and thank you so much for joining us in conversation today. I think it would be great if we just start off maybe with you telling us a little bit about what nature means to you and perhaps how it's been part of your journey through your life so far.
Sure. Hi, it's thank you for having me on. So I kind of grew up in Teesside, and I grew up sort of in the 70s, early 80s when we just all played outside rather than being on screens. So I just spent you just knock on your friend's door, you're coming out to play, we'd be building dens, climbing trees, all that sort of thing. And my parents, they used to take me and my brothers hiking every weekend. So every weekend we'd go up on the North York moors and do a big day hike with a packed lunch. And they kind of got me into exploring, I think. And then we'd always go camping for holidays. So it was all very much up in the moors. We'd get the Lake District, Scotland, all that stuff.
Oh,
And I just loved
amazing.
it. And I've loved it ever since. And then both my grandparents, my dad's side lived in Sunderland near Roker Beach, and then my mum's side lived near Scarborough. So whenever we visited them, we'd go to the beach, and that's kind of where I fell in love with the beach. So yeah, I just love being outside, and I don't think there's any weather where you can't be outside. You just have to have the right gear on, and then
Yeah.
we've had snow recently, haven't we? And I'm just like a little kid in a toy shop.
I know it's amazing. I think we've got lots of snow as well. It's been on the ground for almost a week now, and it's I you just don't lose that sort of magical wonder, do you? It's so it just
You
brings
really
out the
don't.
child in you, doesn't it?
Definitely. Like I built a snowman. I'm on 49 and I
Yeah.
still built a snowman.
And
Got to be done.
so did we. We're 40 as well. We were like Monday morning. We're like, yeah, we shoveled a bit of paths and things, and then we're like,
Yeah,
let's build a
absolutely.
snowman. So
It's got to be done. And especially because I live near the coast, it's rare that we get snow that sticks around. It might snow and then it's gone in an hour. So it's been really nice to have it around for a week.
yeah, it's just like you say, it's just lovely to be outside, I think, and I think that was one of the things I loved about what you did with your yoga was the fact that all year round. I mean, I've seen one of your videos of you getting kitted up for winter sunrise yoga at the beach, and it is like you said, it's just that you have the right clothes and you can get out and enjoy nature all year
this
round.
this is it. I think when I originally started doing my yoga by the sea, I was thinking I'd probably just do it in the summer. But then we kind of got nearer to the end of the year and no one wanted to stop. So I was like, well, no, we just keep going, and it's just put all your layers on. And I've done ski season, so I've got loads of thermals in the cupboard left over from that. So I've got plenty of layers to put on. And it is, you just wrap up warm. Like last Sunday, it was -1 when we did our class, but we still had a lovely
Wow.
time. You're still connecting with nature, and it's just connecting with it in a different temperature. It's fab.
And do you find that doing yoga outside adds something to your practice that you don't experience just being indoors?
I think so, definitely. Yeah, like I started personally doing yoga indoors, just like everyone else. I used to go to a gym and do it there, and I loved it. And then I think I went to Morocco for a surf yoga camp, and that's when I kind of really fell in love with it because the shala for the yoga was on the roof, and you were
Oh
looking over the
wow.
sea and just the sound of the sea. And then where we do it locally, you've got the birds tweeting. It's just amazing, and occasionally, not very often, but we occasionally get dolphins swim by, and that's just a whole other experience.
Oh wow, that would be amazing. That would
Yeah.
be absolutely amazing. And I know because the name of your business is Happy Seal Yoga, isn't it? So I guess obviously you don't want to disturb the seals, but they've been an
Absolutely not. No.
inspiration as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. We've got a local colony up near us, and that's so all my pictures come from that colony. But I've got a massive zoom lens because I don't you don't want to disturb them. It's really sad when they get disturbed, but they're just amazing. They just haul out there, this huge colony, and they just always seem to be so happy. I hope they are.
Yeah. They're I mean we're quite spoilt in this country, aren't we? Because you've got the grey seals up by you as well, haven't you?
We've got
And
both the grey seals and the common seals. Yeah,
yeah, and they're actually quite the grey seals are quite endangered, aren't they? They're
they are. Yeah,
yeah, we've got quite a lot. What is it, sort of, is it around like 40%
we've
of the world?
we've got the majority of the population in
Yeah.
this country, which is amazing.
Yeah, it's
It's
and
rare
I
that we've
think
got one of those. We normally travel to see the amazing wildlife, and you kind of take for granted what you've got on your doorstep, don't you?
yeah, well you do. Well, I mean I spent quite a lot of my time in Africa, so and then I have
Oh,
over the last sort of decade been like actually trying to take more pay more attention to the amazing wildlife that we have got on our
yeah,
shores here. And
absolutely. It is, and you do take it for granted. Like I went out early morning yesterday because I was like, I knew it was snowing. I knew there's a chance there was snow on the beach. So, and I get to walk down through the woods to get to my beach. And if you just stand still, the wildlife forget that you're there, don't they? And all these
yeah.
birds coming around, like dancing around me, and there's a couple of deer trotted past. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, it's beautiful, isn't it? And it's I think that's one of the things about I love about doing yoga as well is just it encourages you to get comfortable in stillness, doesn't it? And
Yeah, definitely. I think that's the best thing about yoga is you get comfortable. You take that time where you can be still, whether it's for 45 minutes, an hour and a half, however long it is. And if you're doing it outside, I think it helps you kind of connect with yourself that little bit more because we always start our classes just by taking in the beautiful view we've got and then listening to the sounds we can hear and just slowly bringing ourselves inward. And yeah, I think it's amazing.
yeah, I think it's our modern society we have so many demands on our time, don't we now? I mean, I think like you said, growing up in the sort of 70s, early 80s, I was only a little bit behind you, and I mean, it's just sometimes I get overwhelmed just by what I think has changed in our lifetime, which is such
It's
a short,
insane,
yeah.
isn't it? I was thinking earlier, like I did a class this year and it was 38 degrees in Whitby. And I remember traveling like in my early 20s and I was in Australia working in the outback and it was like high 40s. And I was like, oh, I'll never experience temperatures like this again. And then this year we've had it in North Yorkshire, which is just
And now
nuts.
we're plunged
And
into snow.
I know it's just like what's going on. And yeah, and just the way technology's changed. Like if you go back to your younger self and say, oh, you'll be carrying this screen around with you permanently attached to your hand. I'd be like, what?
Yeah, and I mean, some of them, not, don't get me wrong, some of it is brilliant. Like the fact that we're here now,
Absolutely.
we can see each other, and the connections around the world have been amazing. But yeah, it's a huge change, and I think that's why I love things like yoga because it does give you that space to just step back from it a little bit more. And
Absolutely, and just to slow down because I think we're like on the go all the time, and there's sort of like this pressure to do more and be more, and it's just you need to just take a rest
yeah,
and
yeah,
bring it
definitely.
back a little. I think.
And you said that you love being outdoors and camping and things, and you've done ski seasons. But I know you do a lot of sort of beach cleans and things, don't you? With
Yeah, so I'm an ambassador for Planet Patrol. So
okay,
we run a yoga beach clean every month in the summer. And it's
oh,
what I like about Planet Patrol, talking about technology, is they've got an app. So it's not just about picking up the litter; it's logging the litter as well, and then they can analyze it over the year and take that to higher levels to try and make change. So they're really big on getting that plastic bag ban in place and all sorts of stuff like that. So I think it's really important and it's really important just to do something to give something back, isn't it? It's like it can be overwhelming, that whole climate change thing, isn't it? So and you're like, what can I do? I can do one little thing. Okay, I'll do that little thing, and that'll make a small difference.
yeah, and that I mean that sounds brilliant, Planet Patrol, because like you say, it's on two levels then, isn't it? So you feel like you're doing something because you're actually actively out there collecting litter, making like you immediately see a change, don't
Yeah,
you? It's like
absolutely. You can
your
see,
little
oh,
bit
there
of
was
beach
rubbish
is,
there and now it's
yeah.
clean again. Yeah.
And but at the same time, actually feeding that information back is a bit of a sort of citizen science project
Yeah, absolutely.
emphasis
Yeah,
that then they're using to campaign for change on a more sort of corporation global level.
exactly. Yeah. So yeah, you can feel good twice.
Yeah. But I think you touched a little bit there that it does feel overwhelming, and I think sometimes we feel we don't know where to start, do we? And actually, it's great to have people like you who've used your where you're based with your yoga, and you've sort of evolved that to help the environment as well, and have an active little community where other people can sort of gravitate towards you. And
Yeah. Yeah. I just think like you can do something, but if you can just do a little bit to give something back, I think good. If you do a bit of good, good comes back to you. And if you just, I think that's a good philosophy to have in life.
yeah, it's really important. I think it's and I think it gives you a little bit of hope as well, doesn't it? That
Yeah,
you,
definitely. Yeah,
yeah, that
yeah.
you,
And it is, and like we're saying, if you just do little things, you can be like, okay, well, I've done a little thing. And if everyone does a little thing,
yeah,
then they become much bigger things.
that's it. I mean, I don't know if I'm not quite sure what the UK population is now, but we're, you know, sort of like
Yeah, if you've got like
60
60
million or
million, something like
something.
that,
Yeah,
yeah.
and it's like if we all used one less plastic bag, suddenly we've
Exactly,
saved 60 million plastic bags, haven't we?
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think it's important to remember that, isn't it?
definitely. Yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I think it was a couple of years ago. I was like, what can I do to reduce my plastic consumption? So I decided to go to soap bar shampoo and conditioner. It was horrible for the first few months. I tried loads of different ones and my hair was really greasy. I was like, oh, what am I doing? Is this really worth it? But then I found one that worked. And it was just like, oh, okay, this is
Yeah.
cool. I've got it now, so I've stuck with that. But
It
it's just a tiny little thing, but I've no longer been using plastic bottles for shampoo and conditioner.
It is really hard, isn't it? I think, and I think that's maybe something that puts people off is it takes trial and error when you're
Yeah,
using like more sort of natural ingredients and things. They don't
exactly.
react in the way that we've become accustomed. So
That's it. Yeah.
to us, like clean means, a big head of lava,
Yeah,
and you just don't get
completely.
that, do you? And
No,
but
totally.
yeah, so it's a lot about perception as well, isn't it? What we've
Mm.
become accustomed
Yeah,
to.
absolutely. What you're being almost brainwashed into believing is how it should be. But yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Do you find like I think you're also for your yoga you sort of looked out for like more eco-friendly yoga equipment and things like that, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely. So whenever I'm buying stuff for me to use for my clients, I use a company called Ecotex, which is a local business in Edinburgh, and they're all sort of ethically and ecologically sound, as far as I can tell. So yeah, and so I think that's really important to do that because there's so much. You could just go and get the cheapest one, but it's just another like dodgy bit of plastic going back at the end of the day. So yeah, if you can do what you can to make it better. But yeah, it can be overwhelming, all these choices, can't you? And then there's a lot of people jumping on the greenwashing thing that, oh, I'm green. But you're like,
Yeah,
are you? And then there's the research you've got to do to find out whether it is or not.
yeah, it is really it's really hard, isn't it? Because you on the surface, I mean, all decisions are, I think that's we have to just make the best decision we can with the information we have at the time, don't
Absolutely.
we? And
Yeah. Yeah. And not worry if you got it wrong. So
yeah,
if you made it
yeah,
in the right with the right intentions, I think
yeah, and
give
I think
yourself credit for that.
everything's on a scale, isn't it? And I think, if you can move up the scale a little bit, so
Yeah, just creep your
if
way up there little by little.
yeah,
We
exactly.
can
I
all
mean,
get
if
there in the end.
it's sort of, 5-10% little increments, and they do add up, they do make a difference. And
Definitely.
um you do a bit of surfing, I believe, as well, don't you?
I do a little bit of surfing, yeah. I try, I think is what I always say. I've been surfing a really long time and you can't tell that when you look at the surfing. But I do love it. I was surfing on I think it was Tuesday this week, and obviously it's freezing cold, but once you're in the water, it's just another experience. It's another way of connecting with nature, and I love it. You just clear your head when you're out in the sea, and then when you catch a wave, it's a really good rush.
Yeah, and I guess it must be a completely different perspective out on the water as
It
well.
is completely like you're surrounded by the water and you see the land from a different viewpoint as well. And I love that viewpoint from being out at sea. So I also, with my yoga, I do stand up paddleboard yoga as well in the summer, and that I love giving people the experience that view from the sea when you're out on the paddleboard.
Yeah, I think it kind of changes your perspective on life as well, doesn't it? When you,
Definitely. And it's so much quieter out there as well, like because you're away from the traffic. Even if you're just a little bit off the shore, you're away from the traffic and the noise and the hustle and bustle, so just everything just seems much calmer instantly.
yeah. Oh, it sounds amazing.
me
I'm like sounding.
too, need to
I've,
move up.
yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, there is something special about the ocean, isn't it? I think it's just, if you're lucky enough to live near it, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
it is proven to help with people's mental health. I volunteer for a wave project, which is a surf therapy charity, and they work with kids and give them the opportunity to surf. And you just see the difference in the children from when they start a 6 week block to the end of a 6 week block. The confidence they get from being out in the sea and getting out of their comfort zone, that's just amazing in itself.
Oh, that sounds fascinating. How did you come to get involved with that?
Um, so I used to work for the RNLI as a lifeguard supervisor, and one of my colleagues, he went to become the regional coordinator for Wave Project. So I kind of heard about it through him, and then it just sounded amazing. So I volunteered. I've just been volunteering with them for a year, but yeah, it's a fun thing to do.
It's I think it's important as well to give children that opportunity to connect with nature as well, isn't
Yeah,
it? It's
absolutely. When they may not necessarily have had that opportunity, so it gives them that opportunity to experience the sea in a way that they maybe never have before. And like I said before, they're going beyond their comfort zone, and when they see that they can, that confidence that they get from it is pretty special.
well, and I think in terms of like conservation and things, like you conserve and you want to help and protect the things that you love as well. So by
Definitely.
giving them that experience of what the
Yep.
ocean is,
Yeah, you're
um,
hopefully encouraging them to care for it in the
yeah.
future. Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I mean, although my sort of feeling is that I think a lot of the younger generation are quite concerned about the environment already.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, for them, they're like they can see that, oh, this is going to get even like we've seen how much it's changed in our lifetime, and they're just at the start of their life. So that, oh, if it's changed that much in their lifetime, what's going to happen in ours? So you can see that they're understandably concerned.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that's the thing, isn't it? There's definitely from our point of view as well as a responsibility to them as well for their future and
Yeah,
not just our own.
completely. Yeah, we've only got a limited time with this planet, so we should look after it to pass it on to the next generation. I think it's key, isn't it?
Do you pick up a huge amount of litter when you do your
We're
litter?
actually really fortunate in that it's not too bad. If you we There's certain pockets where you'll get a lot, and it
Okay.
tends to be mainly plastic bottles. That's the biggest thing we collect, but it's all sorts of stuff as well. We've had candles, and wellies, so it depends on which part of time in the summer it is, how many
Yeah.
tourists have been in, and what time of day I've done it as well. So if it's later in the day, there's obviously a lot more. But our local councils are quite good. They have litter pickers working throughout the day as well.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of other local charities that litter pick as well. So it's not just me out there. There's like lots of
Yeah.
local beach sweeps happening. So there's a lot of community here that really care about keeping those beaches clean, which is really nice.
And so do you find a lot of it is sort of more onshore waste that's left rather than you're getting washed up
Yeah,
coming
definitely.
back from the
It's
yeah.
stuff from people's picnics and just all sorts. Yeah, it's generally sweet wrappers, plastic bottles. It's stuff that people haven't managed to take back to the bin. I mean, we do get stuff washed in off the shore, like random, like lots of fishing tackle and stuff. But
Yeah,
it's
okay.
generally it's generally stuff related to humans not having taken their rubbish home.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's quite good. So you're sort of basically on the ground level of it, and you're by what you're doing is actually stopping it getting out into the ocean
Yeah,
environment
that's the
and
hope. Yeah,
going around
exactly.
the world, and then
Exactly, building up that, because we've seen
yeah,
that thing where there's
oh,
just like a tidal stream of litter. I was like,
yeah.
oh, yeah,
Yes, it's quite horrific to see
isn't
that,
it?
isn't it? This
Yeah,
massive litter island out in
yeah.
the middle of nowhere. I mean, do you see as well on when you with your seal colony and things, do you see much impact on them from like litter and fishing tackle, or is it?
Our colony is quite remote, so I haven't seen that so much from the fishing tackle, but I have seen more effect from disturbance. I think from the
Okay.
pandemic, people would, because there wasn't much to do, people were then visiting the seals more, and people who weren't necessarily hadn't been educated, but they're really great once they realised it was happening. Um, I'm not sure if it's the Wildlife Trust. I don't know who it is, but there's volunteers in there, and they're at the top before you go down, and they're at the bottom, and they're educating people to not go near them, which is cool. So their work is being done to protect them, which is
So
really
do you
reassuring.
have is it a breeding colony that you've got by you there?
Yeah,
Yeah, so
yeah,
there you have the pups. I guess
yeah,
it's sort of
yeah.
this time of year, isn't it,
Yes,
actually?
exactly.
Yeah.
So we get pups both, because we've got the two types of seals. We get pups now, and we get pups in June, July as well.
Oh
So
wow. Oh
yeah,
wow. So yeah, so quite important
yeah,
throughout the year to
to
yeah,
protect them, and yeah,
yeah.
make sure they're not disturbed. Because I definitely can. I don't go very often to take photos. I'll just go and take one massive load, and then I'll use and reuse. So I'd taken some sort of 2018, and then I went back, I think 2021, and that you could see that there was noticeably less seals there, which was really sad. So
Yeah.
hopefully they will get going again.
Yeah, no, it is very difficult. I mean, I'm a wildlife photographer, so I do know that unfortunately our industry is
Yeah,
there is a vast range of people and experience
yeah,
and a lot of people sadly don't understand that
the
actually a
impact
lot
they're
of
going to have.
yeah
Yeah,
and how easy it is. I mean, just I think there's some great posters, isn't there, and awareness that's been drawn, but basically if a seal's like looking at you, then you've disturbed it. It's
exactly.
as
Yeah,
simple as
yeah,
that.
yeah,
It's not a question of it moving, it's actually just the fact that if it's looked up at you, then
yeah,
it's concerned about your presence.
exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I because we've got grey seals down in Norfolk, and and actually when I saw the name of your business, Happy Seal Yoga, it reminded me of going to see them, and they look like they're sort of doing yoga poses
They
quite a
do.
lot, don't
They
they?
really do. Like they're just always stretching, and just, oh, I just reach up here with my things. I'll go here. Yeah, I love them. They're great.
Yeah, they're amazing. They're amazing animals. I think.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I like to think of them as the Labradors of the sea.
yeah. Yeah, they do. They are, aren't they?
Yeah,
That's a great image. They've got that kind of like
they're
happy
just
go lucky. Yeah.
definitely just having fun.
So you're in terms of yoga, how did you get into yoga? Did you find it, have you done it all your life, or did you
No,
have
no, I found it late. So I found surfing late, and then because of surfing, I was like, oh, I'm not really very flexible. So I've done sport all my life. So I've done a lot of sport, but not not the good things that will keep you doing sport. So I haven't done much strength and flexibility. So I kind of fell into yoga to try and help improve my surfing, get my flexibility better. I remember the first class I went to, I didn't know what was going on. I was just at the back of the class, just giggling away with my friend. I was like, what are we doing?
yeah.
But I obviously liked it because I kept going back. And it wasn't until I went to that surf camp in Morocco where we were doing yoga twice a day. So we'd do yoga in the morning, we'd surf all day, and then we'd do a yin class in the evening. And before that, I'd only been maybe doing yoga once a week. And that really got me into it. And I just noticed the change you could have in a week from doing yoga, just both
Oh,
mentally and physically. It was, yeah, great. And I didn't really think about teaching until much later, about 2018. I thought, oh, I could actually do this. So I went to India and trained as a yoga teacher in India, which was amazing.
Oh wow,
Took
okay.
a couple of months over there, and yeah, just came back. And I wasn't sure I was actually. I just went to do the teacher training because I just wanted to get more into the yoga. I wasn't sure whether I'd actually teach. And then when I came back, I just started teaching in one class, and then I was like, oh, and I enjoyed it. And I was just like, I get an opportunity to be outside, still be in the place I love, and teach yoga at the same time. Share that really special thing.
And you share it with other surfers as well, I believe, don't you? Some of your
Yeah, so I work with another same guy who does the wave project. He's a local surf coach, so we often work together and do surf sirens. So we'll do coaching and a bit of yoga in there as well. And I've also done surf yoga days with the local surf school down at Caton Bay as well. So yeah.
I think because that's a big misconception about yoga, isn't it? Is that you have to be flexible. Like I know because
Oh, it's just
yeah,
like it's the biggest thing that people say. Oh, I can't do yoga. I'm not flexible. I was like, no, it's not the point.
that's why you need to do
It's a
yoga.
byproduct of doing it.
Yeah.
It's like
You
something.
don't start as flexible.
Yeah,
You work
exactly.
on it and
Yeah, completely. Yeah, it's the most common reason you get for not doing it, and you're just like, oh no, come and do it. You need it. That's why you should do it.
yeah. And what would you say to people to encourage them to consider yoga?
I think it's just there's so many benefits from it. Everyone always just thinks it's about flexibility, but it's that chance, like we said, to take a bit of time for yourself to be still, to connect with your body and become more aware of what you can and can't do. Like I'm not the most flexible yoga teacher, and there's some poses I can't do, and I'm happy to admit that. I'm not one of them insta yogis that can just flick up into handstand and do whatever. It, but that's because I'm aware of my body and I know what I can and can't do. I'm not as young as I once was. So it develops that great body awareness, really calms your mind. I think that the mental benefits of it are as important, if not more important, than all the physical benefits. But it really improves your strength as well. Like I'm stronger than I ever was because of yoga.
Yeah, I think I did a lot of Pilates and then actually came to yoga after having quite a bad ankle injury. I sort of strained and tore everything and managed to end up with my Achilles heel tendon sort of healing shortened as well, and was like, what can I do? Because I could
Yeah,
barely walk. I couldn't do anything like hugely active, and yoga, yeah, it has that lovely element of it looks like you're not almost doing very much at times. I think particularly you said you touched on like yin yoga, and I think that's a lot of like holding, isn't it?
yes, absolutely. Yeah,
But actually the amount of difference in like flexibility and strength, and it's just if you're having a bad day as well or anything, it's just even if you just do a couple of poses and then just sort of sit
yeah,
on your mat and it gives you to quiet your mind, doesn't it? And
definitely. It quiets that mind. And I've nodded along all through what you've just been saying there because I had knee injuries. Like that's why I stopped doing ski seasons basically. Is I had quite bad knee injuries. And it was yoga that got me through that because I've always been sporty. So having that inability to run, I was told I wasn't allowed to run anymore. And I was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? And so I just
it
kind of
is
got
really
more and more
hard,
into the
isn't it?
yoga. Yeah, it's really hard to
Yeah,
adjust your mindset when you've lived your life a certain way and to do it a different way. I mean, I do run again now, but not like I used to. And
yeah.
it does just give you that, and it is even if you just do a couple like 5 minutes a day, just like you say, that little time on the mat, just feel how you're feeling and sit with that is
And
amazing.
yeah, I when you touched on like physical, like I was like you, I was really active. I've run marathons, I climbed Kilimanjaro, and then
Yeah,
there I was like on crutches for like 6 months, and it's the toll it took actually on me mentally. I think was
yeah.
almost harder than physically.
I think it's
Um,
100% harder, isn't it?
yeah,
I
and
can remember walking down the street and being overtaken by people who were like in their 70s, 80s. I was just like, what's wrong with me? I can't keep up with normal people.
when you don't you lose trust in your own body as well,
Mm.
don't you? You're sort of like I remember used to because I've got horses and I'd be like oh, will I be able to get out of the way quick enough? And just simple things
Yeah.
like stepping backwards would be like, is my ankle going to give way? And yeah, it's
Yeah, totally. It's like stairs. I don't trust stairs anymore. It's like, even though I've been
you
well
hang
for
on the
ages,
railing,
I'm still
like,
walking downstairs going, will my legs do this?
yeah,
All right, I don't know.
yeah, and you do that sort of one shuffle, like one step, bring the other foot, one
Yeah,
step, bring the
totally.
other foot.
Yeah, completely. Oh, it's a weird world, isn't it, when you have to
Yeah,
adjust your body and get used to it again.
but like you, I mean, just yoga has just been transformative, I think, for my body. And I mean, I think there were times when I was like, am I going to be able to run again? And without that sort of moment's hesitation of like, oh my god, can I run? It was, and
Yeah.
yeah, and,
Yeah, totally. It's like that. I remember the first time I went out because I had surgery and the surgeon said, "Don't run again. It's not worth it." But then my mental health was suffering because I wasn't running. So I went back to my doctor and said, "Do I really never have to? Can I really never run again?" He was like, "No, if it's going to affect your mental health, go run. It's fine."
yeah,
So I remember that first run out, and you're just like, "Oh, I'm not sure if I can do this or not." But then it's just learning to trust your body again. Yeah,
yeah.
that's a battle in itself, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a, I think it is a huge battle, and I think that's something that we have in everything we see in the environment as well, don't we? Of like learning to trust our own instinct is quite important as well.
Yeah.
Like, when we were talking about making decisions, and you know, you can get sort of bogged down in that research cycle, can't you? But
Yeah,
actually,
absolutely. And then never make a decision
yeah,
because you're like, oh, I don't know if it's the right one, so I'm just not going to make one that's
yeah,
safer.
yeah. And then
Like,
you miss out because you're not doing
yeah,
anything, and it's like actually just taking that first step and
yeah, making that
doing
little leap of
something.
faith. Yeah.
Yeah. If you wanted to encourage people to get involved in yoga who've never done anything before, is it best, do you think, to go to a class? Or I mean, there's some, you do online classes as well, don't you,
I
actually?
used to do online because I'm not doing them at the moment. Like, I obviously with the pandemic, everything went online, so it was just like that big learning curve of what's this Zoom thing? I've never heard of it before, and oh God, what we're doing, and a massive learning curve. But yeah, so I did online throughout the pandemic, but then since we went outside this spring, um, pretty much most people were back outside, so I stopped doing online then. So I'm not doing it at the moment. But yeah, just find a class locally. A lot of teachers will put on beginners courses, like I'm doing a beginners course in January for 6 weeks at the local Buddhist centre, which is an indoor class. But it just because going outside, maybe if you've never done it before, a lot of people come to me who've never done it before outside, and that's great. But some people might be a bit conscious, so if you are, then go join a beginners class and learn the basics. It's yeah,
Yeah, it's
and just give it a go.
yeah.
Don't worry about what you look like.
Yeah.
Don't worry what anyone else is doing in the class. It's not
Yeah.
about that. It's about how it feels.
Yeah, no, that's the thing, isn't it? I think it is a bit daunting, isn't it? Especially if you have this preconception that everyone's like these flexible
Super
yoga
bendy.
yoga
Can wrap
goddesses,
their leg
and
around the head. It's really not like that.
and you're like, I
Not in
can't
my
even
classes
touch my
anyway.
toes.
Yeah.
But
And that's it. There's modifications for everything you can do. So there's different options, not modifications, different options you can do for any pose. So there you can find your way into it with a good teacher. Yeah, for sure.
yeah. You touched a little bit earlier about your ski seasons. I mean, that's a completely different environment, isn't it? The mountains and
Yeah. Oh, I don't know where it came from. Like when I was little, I was obsessed with skiing. I think it was from Ski Sunday, watching Ski Sunday, because no one in my family skis or didn't then. I made them all learn. And I was just like obsessed with going skiing. And I think my parents thought it was just a phase. They said, oh, when you get to senior school, you can go on a school trip. And they thought I'd forget about it. And I got skiing senior school. I was like, I want to go skiing. You promised I could go. So they let me go on the school trip. And then but the school trip was fairly raucous. So then they were like, we'll go on family holidays from now
yeah.
on. Then they all came along too. And I loved it. Like those family holidays were fab. And I used to always go skiing with we had lessons to start with. And then there'd always be, back then you could have ski guides and I'd go skiing with a ski guide. And I was like, I want to be the ski guide when I grow up. So I was just obsessed with it. And it's just, as soon as I finished uni, I traveled for a year. And then while I was traveling, I was like, right, I'm going to start doing ski seasons. And I thought I'd just do one. And then I was addicted. And I carried on doing it for, I think I did 12 altogether in the end.
Oh
Um,
wow,
yeah,
wow.
so I
So
used to do
quite a
ski,
big part of your life then
huge
for
part of my life. Yeah, I
yeah.
kind of did it in two chunks. I did 6 seasons when I was in my 20s, and then I came back in my late 30s and did another 6 then as well. And I used to do ski seasons in the summer and not ski seasons in the winter, and I used to lifeguard on the beaches in the summer. So
Oh
I
wow,
was
okay.
living the best of both worlds.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That's quite amazing. So and and in the mountains, do you have a similar experience of nature to out in the ocean, do you think, or completely?
Yeah, it's completely different, but it's as amazing. Like there's nothing like being, like, especially if you've hiked up out of the ski area to like an even higher point, and you're just stood on the top of a mountain, and there's only you and your mates that have hiked up there. That again, it's that quietness. Once you've got away from the hustle and bustle of everyone that's skiing on the piste, is just amazing, and the views are phenomenal. Like you can take a million pictures and you can never get that view that you see with
Yeah.
your own eyes. Just,
Yeah, that
oh,
it's I think it's the sort of peripheral vision, isn't it? That sort of
yeah,
all
it's
encompassing.
just mountains as far as the eye can see.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And it's
stunning.
yeah, you just you you kind of feel immersed in it in a way, don't you? In a way that you don't really get in the sort of more urbanized environment.
Completely. It's just, I think, and as well, I think snow makes everything look so clean. So it just looks pristine. Like there doesn't look like there's anything going wrong here because it's just covered in this beautiful white landscape. Yeah, it's stunning.
Yeah, yeah, it is beautiful. I mean, the snow we've got at the moment is it is amazing. It just transforms the world, doesn't it? I mean, it's like
It really
literally
does. Yeah, it's like everywhere become Narnia.
yeah, 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 and it just I don't know, it sort of gives you a clarity, I suppose, doesn't it, of perception as well. I mean, you start noticing like the trees and the
Definitely, it's like even like as the day changes, like say there's been a heavy snowfall overnight, so all the trees are laden with like a foot of fresh snow, and then maybe it warms up during the day, and the snow starts to slowly fall off the trees as we move. So you just get those different sounds just from the snow.
yeah, and I guess in the mountains as well, there's the sort of the respect for it as well from the risk of avalanches and things that Mother Nature is a powerful
All
force.
powerful force, absolutely. Yeah, you never know. You can prepare as much as you want, but you never know what's going to happen on any given day. And it's always about safety first, but you know that there is that element of risk involved.
Yeah. And I guess there's the sort of cleaner air as well, isn't there? And just the freshness and yeah, it's just I mean I think both of the places that you're drawn to, the mountains and the ocean, just have a real a special quality about them, don't they? That are quite, I guess, I suppose, sort of healing, really, aren't they? To
Yeah, I think you're right, and I think it's like what you picked on with the air, especially in the mountains, the crispness of the air, and also because you're so high up, there's less oxygen in the air, so it's almost like you get a different sensation because you are at altitude. Um, and it is healing. I think you're right. That's a great way to look at it. Yeah,
yeah.
again, you feel very small in this beautiful big world, and it just gives you perspective, I think.
Yeah, yeah, because I think a lot of and that comes back to yoga again, doesn't it? Of a lot of what we get in our heads, don't we? And things get on top of us. They feel like they're insurmountable. And time in nature and like doing yoga and things, they help to get us out of our heads a little bit and get that perspective, that bigger picture view of life. Um,
Definitely. I think you kind of, we're all very busy in our minds, aren't we? All the time, you're overthinking, overthinking, overthinking. And if you can just get out into nature, wherever it is, and we got a really good lesson in school, actually. I don't know if I mentioned I grew up in Teesside, which is affectionately known as Smoggyland. So not necessarily renowned for its nature. But I remember being in a geography lesson and they brought up all these slides of pictures, and we had to say whether they were Cleveland, which was what Teesside was called at the time, or Cornwall, Devon, Scotland, the Lake District. anytime it was a beautiful picture, we all put down it was one of the other places. And whenever it was an industrial wasteland or chemical plant, we put down it was Cleveland. And then at the end of the lesson, they were like, they were all Cleveland.
Oh wow. Oh,
And we
that's
were like,
quite
oh,
powerful.
wow. Yeah, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's like, you, because you've been brought up to think that where you live isn't beautiful, you presume it's not, but there is beauty around the corner wherever you live.
Yeah, I think that's a really that's a really powerful, yeah, oh gosh.
And it
Just
stayed with me. Like, that must have been a
yeah.
lesson when I was like 13, something like that.
But it's so true though, isn't it? Is that, we become blinkered. I think that's it,
Mm,
isn't it? We become
yeah,
blinkered in our perception of where we are and where we live. I mean, I know we're in a little village in Hertfordshire, and actually most people don't even know the village exists. And we're not remote. We're sort of, 5 miles from a very big town.
yeah.
And and but people will say, "Where are you from?" And you tell them, and they're like, "Oh, I've never heard of that." And you're like, "Well,
Yeah.
it's literally just like 10 minutes drive for you, and you'd be there." And it's like this,
Yeah,
it's like Narnia. It's like going through the wardrobe, and
yeah.
suddenly you're in this
Oh,
different world. And
completely.
yeah, and but that's a really powerful thing, is to actually just, I don't know what's the word, like the beginner's mindset, isn't it? That
Yeah,
curiosity, that
yeah,
natural childlike, actually start looking around you and
yeah. And I think
realizing,
that was one of the only benefits of the initial lockdown, like when you were only allowed out for an hour. And it brought back that whole, well, I'm used to this walk, but I need a different walk. So I'm going to go explore. And you'd be like, I had like 5 minutes from my house and I didn't know this little place existed. And
oh,
so, yeah.
it was, I mean, it was amazing even now in our little village, like the amount of people that lived in our village that didn't even get out and enjoy it. And they were
Mm.
like, the sort of, it was almost revolutionary for them. This, like, they're like, oh wow, this is on my doorstep, and it's like I've been watching
Well, like,
Netflix or something.
yeah,
All
totally.
these,
And I think also, like, before the lockdown, if you didn't have a dog and you went out for a walk, like, and it wasn't like to go hiking, people were like, what are you doing?
yeah, yeah,
Whereas it's normalized it now. So you see people out for a walk and it's like, okay,
yeah.
good.
No, I think it's again, it's perception, isn't it, as well? It's like people are a bit like, oh, are people gonna think I'm a bit strange? What am I doing?
Yeah,
And it's fear, isn't it? Fear gets in our way a lot of the time of
definitely. Worrying what other people think is like, no, how much of life have we wasted doing that?
yeah, yeah,
When most of the time they're worrying about what other people think as well. So it's
I know.
like,
Well, that's the sad thing about it, isn't it? Is actually when you realize like most people actually aren't worrying about you at all. They'll
no, not at
unless
all.
they're unless they're
Unless
worrying
they're
about
worrying
what
about
you're
what you're
thinking
thinking.
about them.
Yeah, completely. And once
Yeah,
you get that, you're like, oh God, what have I been worrying about all this time?
yeah, and that's very freeing, though, isn't it?
Isn't it?
And
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that that's I think that's something that we can take through in life, isn't it? Is actually, and it relates to the environment as well, is just doing what you feel is right for you, and trying to, as long as you come from your heart and you're not causing damage or hurting others, um just trusting yourself.
Yeah. I think that's so true. Trust yourself and do what feels right. And
Yeah,
hopefully what you feel is right. And
yeah,
then you can't go wrong.
and it is just getting in touch with yourself. And I think that's why I loved your journey with yoga as well, is just, and taking that into the environment and in all the different ways that you do, from practicing out there, but also, bringing in, doing your beach cleans and inspiring others by teaching children. It's fantastic. How, I mean, it's amazing really, actually, when you think about it. I don't know if you do think about it, but like the ripple effect that you
Yeah, you
have
don't
had.
think about it, I don't think. And then you saying that, you're like, oh wow, I'm doing all right.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's what's really powerful, is like, you're sort of like, a lovely, beautiful, humble person, and you've just been on your own journey, and you came to yoga because you wanted to surf a little bit better, but actually you've created this lovely little community around you, and that you've inspired, and yeah, you're making a difference. It's amazing.
And I think that word community, I think that's what it's all about. If you can create a nice community, that's what I love about teaching yoga, is the community of people who come to my classes. They're amazing, and it's been like a privilege to meet them all and share yoga with them.
I think during COVID and lockdown, I think that was something that became really apparent to a lot of people, wasn't it? It was actually when we were cut off from everyone, actually that sense of community is really important, and finding like-minded individuals, and you can amplify your, together you can do so much. Like, when you go on a beach clean, there's only so much you can pick up, but if you have another person with you, you pick up a bit more. If there's 10 of you, actually you sort of inspire each other to do even more. And
absolutely, and the more people that you're doing it with, the more people see you doing it, and they're like, oh, I could do that too. And
yeah.
like you say, it's that ripple effect.
Oh, well, it's been amazing talking to you, Helen. I think that sounds like a lovely place to start to wrap up. But I don't know, do you have anything else that you feel that you would love to share with people about your journey or connecting with nature? Any
I,
wisdom on your heart?
I don't think so. I think it is just get out there whenever you can, whatever the weather, just get out there, because it is amazing. And I think community is at the heart of everything. So yeah, thank you so much for chatting to me today.
Well, it's a pleasure. And if anyone's looking for any tips on how to be prepared for winter, Helen's got a great video on her Instagram of exactly how to layer up like a true professional.
I went out for our Wave Project Christmas meal the other night, and everyone was like, how many layers are you wearing? How many layers are you wearing? Like, oh, I forgot that was out there.
No, but it's important, I think, for people who perhaps haven't had that opportunity to get out, particularly if you've had more of an urban experience, upbringing, life. You don't know how to.
Absolutely, and it's just like simple things like tucking in twice. The double tuck makes all the difference of all. Don't leave any skin exposed.
Oh, well, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Helen. And
No worries, thank
it's
you.
been lovely to have this little conversation with you, exploring all the different environments that have influenced your life. And yeah,
Oh,
thank
thanks
you
so
so
much, and hopefully one day you'll make it up to Scarborough and you can
Yeah,
come and
I'd
join me
love
for some
to.
yoga.
I'd love to. That'd be brilliant. That'd be brilliant. Thanks so much, Helen.
No worries, thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to the Nurtured by Nature podcast. I truly hope this conversation has brought some hope and inspiration into your life. I would love to have these messages ripple out across the world. So if you can, please share this episode with your friends, leave a review on your favourite podcast player, and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I would love to hear from you, so please feel free to connect with me on the links provided in the podcast description. But most importantly, thank you so much for being a part of this journey with me. But don't forget to simply get out there and enjoy the natural world.